Hello and welcome to Dharma Podcasts. I'm Lola and today we're joined by Martin.
Hello.
Hello Martin, how's it going?
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Today we are going to talk about Pratyahara. So Martin, here's where I pose the question. What exactly is Pratyahara?
Well, interesting, because I think Pratyahara is a much overlooked aspect of the 8 limbs of yoga. We hear lots and lots about the concept of meditation, but without Pratyahara, I don't believe meditation is possible.
So whereabouts, sorry to interrupt, you mentioned the 8 limbs. Whereabouts, what are the 8 limbs and how has Pratyahara something to do with it?
Well, the 8 limbs are a system of yoga devised by someone called Patanjali around 2,000 years ago. And it's a system of yoga that's divided into 8 parts, and it starts with something called the yamas and niyamas, which are moral and ethical considerations. Then we move on to asana, or you might know that as yoga postures. Then pranayama, which is breathing exercises. And then the next limb, the 5th limb, is something called pratyahara, and the following limbs of yoga go deeper into meditation, but pratyahara is the one we're focusing on today.
So if pratyahara is before those limbs which correspond with meditation, is it like the gateway to meditation? Do those limbs have to be followed sequentially?
No, you can practice the yamas and yamas, which are moral and ethical codes of practice, independently. So no, the answer to that is no, but without applying concepts of moral and ethical considerations and considering things like karma, you can't really engage fully, I don't think, in concepts of meditation without applying all the 8 limbs of yoga.
Right, okay.
If that's not missing the point.
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be a moral and upworthy person independently, but I think you need to practice all the elements in order to achieve sustained periods of meditation. Right. Because the mind fluctuates constantly, and the concept of pratyahara is the first stage of bringing the mind under control.
Right, okay. So you said it's often overlooked.
Well, I mean, as I said before, you know, Facebook is full of references to meditation, but I don't think meditation is possible without purifying the mind, and pratyahara is a system of purifying the mind. The mind is geared to seek experiences, or the senses are constantly reaching out subconsciously for stimulus, and it's something that happens all the time. And pratyahara quite often just referred to as sense withdrawal, which is why I believe it's quite overlooked. So pratyahara, I think, is a much deeper practice than simply considering something. There isn't much information out there in most yoga books, and it doesn't give you an awful lot of information in the Yoga Sutras itself. But there is information if you look for it.
So you mentioned the Yoga Sutras. So what kind of... So the Yoga Sutras, we know, are an ancient yogic text about 2,000 years ago, written by Patanjali. What other kind of ancient texts mention Pratyahara? Where is it cited?
There is another book called the Yoga Yajnavalkya, which is said to be a text on Hatha Yoga, physical yoga, but does involve the 8 limbs as well. And it does give several examples of how you might practice Pratyahara in that book. And one of those is something called Pratyahara Vayu. And Vayu means wind, and the practice is interpreted as wind withdrawal. So you take the breath and the awareness around to 15 vital points in the body, and it is said to enhance the practice of Pratyahara, purifying the mind.
And just this thought's come into my head. So you said earlier Pratyahara is essentially sense withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
So we know it aids meditation. What are the benefits? So you said it helps kind of quiet the mind. Is that
so the practice of Pratyahara is a very down to earth tool that you can use to control instinctive emotional patterns of behaviour.
Right.
So we're geared primordially. I can't think that word's come out right.
Primordially?
Yeah. Well, we have a primal brain, and that primal brain is constantly reaching out for information, and quite rightly as well. But if we allow that part of our brain to constantly do that without checking in and seeing whether it's a worthy thing to be aware of or not, it can cause unnecessary patterns of behaviour to be followed.
So with that in mind, how might we practice Pratyahara?
Okay, so you can practice that most importantly, I think, rather than just in your yoga class once a week, or maybe even in your meditation practice for 20 minutes a day. The Yajnavalkya says that you can practice Pratyahara all day, throughout the day, while we carry out our duties. So the jobs that we have to do to maintain ourselves and our dependents. So you practice Pratyahara by carrying out your duties without moaning about them, without wishing you didn't have to do them. So you do it with a sense of indifference, if you like. And there's another concept of Pratyahara, which is indifference.
Right.
Okay, so you practice indifference to what your senses pick up. So what you might hear, what you might see, what you might taste and touch. Although your senses are continuing to pick up that stimuli. So although your senses are still picking up that stimuli, you're detaching yourself from the outcome. So you treat it with a level of indifference. So you don't try and stop it, but you don't engage with it either.
So that notion of sense withdrawal by indifference, you're not being attached to your senses.
Yes, there's no attachment, there's no karmic footprint.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, karmic footprint. Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much, Martin. What an enlightening conversation.
I really enjoyed that. And one of my missions recently is to start promoting Pratyahara.
A Pratyahara campaign, crusade, Pratyahara
crusade. Guru, I think.
Yeah, Pratyahara Guru.
All right, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, guys. Look forward to next time. Namaste.